There's unseen work happening in the dirt, in the darkness. And the darkness is not punishment, which I think is so cool. Often when we feel like we're in the shadows and in the dark, we're being punished, but sometimes we're being protected, right? And then we start to leaf and bloom, and there's visible growth. So there's all this growth happening that we don't see. Like you see a baby before a baby can walk or talk, they're continually growing and learning, but you don't always see that. But it doesn't just stop with the blooming and the leafing, it continues the cycles, the seasons, right? We have spring and summer and fall and winter. And with each season, we can learn. So with fall, this is the release, the letting go, and we allow ourselves to shed. And whatever we let go actually becomes the foundation that can nurture our next season. But before we can blossom, we need to rest. We need to hibernate. We need to allow ourselves to be in a winter. And then we can bloom into spring. And in summer is where we're able to really flourish and shine in all of our work and all of our glory. And then it starts again. And so, just the trees, I think, can teach us so much.
I agree. And it's not just the outward, like what you see on the outside. There's so much change going on underneath too. So if you were able to like dig up a tree, the roots are even like just as wide or just as deep as like the top of the tree or just as prevalent, right? And so there are things that have to be going on both on the outside and the inside in order to be more anchored and prepared for these types of changes.
Welcome to the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast, where you master your mind and coach your own comeback. You are the hero, you are the guide, and you will learn to architect your life from the inside. I'm your host, Bretagne Stowe, joined by my sister and co host, Anike Wilder. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast. Today's episode is all about seasons, how life, like nature, moves through cycles of growth, shedding, rest, and renewal. I am so excited to be back. We have been going through some changes, some seasons over here, and I hope that with this podcast, you are going to feel our intention, which is to give yourself more grace and understanding as you move through the changes of your life. Anike, I know that I've been going through a new season. You've been going through a new season as well.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change. I think that actually, I think the world has been going through a lot of change since like COVID. I think 2020 really rocked the world, and there's been a lot of changes. I've seen it in the workplace, I've seen it in the personal life, I've seen it in my health, and change can be really hard. But I think this is such an important topic, and I'm super excited to talk about it because it's inevitable and we need to deal with it. We need to learn how to embrace it. We need to understand it. So I would love to hear because you having a baby is one of the biggest changes that anyone can have. From 0 to 1 is a total game changer. It throws your life upside down. No one can fully prepare you for it. So tell me about your new season of like having a baby and what all that is like.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're right. You cannot prepare. And they say that the only thing constant is change itself. And even with a baby, that is so true. You think you have their sounds figured out, you know what their cries mean, and then all of a sudden they make a new sound or that your secret code of, oh, wait, that means he's hungry versus that means he's thirsty versus that means he needs to poop. It all like changes. And so it has been just this constant go with the flow. I'm trying to understand him constantly, but it's been amazing. So, yes, it has taken my world upside down, and my priorities have completely shifted. It has been the best thing that has ever happened to me. Baby Harvey, we call him Happy Harvey, is just a joy. And the forcing of this change has really kicked off this new evolution in me. I feel like the shifting of priorities, but also giving myself grace for things taking time and allowing myself to slow down and make space for not just all the things that I have to do with the baby, but the personality, the new life that I've just entered into my world. It's pretty amazing.
I think that babies are actually the perfect example for embracing change because it is hard. It's one of the hardest things that any human can go through because your sleep schedule changes, your activities with friends and family changes, your priorities change. And but at the same time, the baby is learning how to hold its head up and then to roll over and then to start, making sounds and eye contact and then grabbing things and then eventually walking. And every change that a baby goes through is celebrated by its parents. And I think that that's a really good example for something that we could have as adults that, there are going to be times where we're just walking again, we're learning to speak again, or we're learning how to roll over, so to speak, in a new part of our life. And why aren't we clapping and celebrating and jumping with joy and recording it on camera and going, oh my gosh, you're doing this thing like we do with babies? I mean, babies embrace change because it's so natural for them.
That's such a good point, and you're absolutely right. I would even go as far to say celebrating even the things that might seem embarrassing, right? He burped, he farted. We celebrate that. We get excited and we talk about it. Like my husband will go and change Harvey's diaper, and he'd be like, just pee this time. And I'm like, that's okay. And it's, just the things that you talk about. When we get older, all of a sudden these topics are so taboo. And if change isn't big, we don't talk about it, we don't celebrate it. But if we're constantly keeping our friends and family in the loop of what is happening in our lives, I think it'll be easier to embrace those changing seasons.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's easier said than done, right? Because change is hard. And so, I mean, there's changes that I've been going through too. So, like, we just bought our first house, and this was a massive feat for me and my family because, I'm 35. We've been renting for all of these years. I've got two kids, we've got our businesses, and we finally were able to cross that bridge and purchase a house of our very own. And that was one of the scariest things. I mean, not comparing to having baby because there's nothing scarier than that, but buying a house, I mean, it's a huge purchase. It's a huge investment. It's a huge commitment, and stepping over to that other side is wild. And we're still slowly moving in, so it doesn't even feel exactly like it's real yet. But it does also feel exciting. And I think it's important to remember that when you are feeling nervous and anxious and scared, it can also be interpreted as excited for something new because they'll show up so similarly in the body.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, Annika, what has surprised you most about this season of change? Because yes, buying a house is a big deal. You're really putting roots down, right? You've lived a lot of different places, and now you've decided we're actually going to live here for a while. Let's put down some roots. So what surprised you most about this?
It's funny because we're moving out of a rental, and I noticed myself feeling like there's a word that some cultures use that's called like trunky, like you're packing your bags, like you're getting ready to go. And I started getting trunky in my rental like several months ago, feeling like, okay, I'm ready for something different. We've been in a one bathroom house for four people for years, and we're ready for multiple toilets now. So so it's been exciting, but what surprised me is how excited I am to care for a house and how my mindset has changed to we're kind of doing the bare minimum as renters. We're very good renters. We're very respectful. We do the right things. We're not like the horror stories you hear about renters, but I feeling myself transition to wanting to actually care for a house and being excited to garden, being excited to like clean, and everything will have its place in our new house. And maybe this is too much of a fantasy because we've got kids and there will be messes. It's just proving to me, though, that I didn't realize I'd be excited to care for a house because now it's mine. It's not somebody else's, it's mine.
It sounds like that you've been maybe longing for this new season in your life.
Well, definitely. I tell people that you're not fully an adult until you have children. Like you are an adult, but really you don't really grow up until you help somebody else grow up. And no one understands it until you become a parent, right?
Well, so let me ask you, I'm older than you. Are you telling me that you have been an adult longer than I
Yes.
have? Okay.
Yes, exactly. In some aspects, right? So you have more adult experiences in different ways, but really to really understand what it means to be a mature adult that understands the full cycle of life it doesn't really start until you have a child of your own and you understand that level of sacrifice and that change. And I think that owning a house and or owning a business can do that same thing for you. It is ownership, like not that you own your kids, but it's like it's yours. It's yours that to hold on to. And so buying a house is also like an adulting step that is something that I think any adult should want and crave.
Mm, I love that. So, what did you have to let go to allow this new season to unfold in your life?
Well, our neighborhood is gorgeous. It is packed full of trees. They're beautiful, older, like 1940s houses, and every house is a little different. We're right down the street from a park. We're down the street from another park that we can walk to. Actually, we're like walking distance between basically four amazing parks. And the location's just great. I've loved where we live and moving into the new house because we decided to get it's a starter home, but it's a new construction. So there's no trees. They're still building houses all around us. There's no maturity at all, but it is a bigger house for us. It's new. It's something that we chose to do. And I won't get into all the reasons why, but that's something we chose to do. So having to give up the comfort zone of where we currently are, even though it's uncomfortable having one bathroom with four people, but the comfort zone of this has been our home for a while. And everyone always felt so homey when they came into our home. And everyone said, what a cute neighborhood and all these beautiful trees and I long for these trees. I loved coming home to this beautiful street full of trees. I mean, massive maple trees that change with every season. And I'm giving all of that up, all of it to go into a new change that's better for my family. The new house will not have the trees, but it'll be bigger. The kids will have their own room. We'll have more bathrooms. We'll have a bigger garage. We'll actually be able to park in a garage for the first time in my life. And that's huge. So giving up the aesthetics of the beauty of my current rental to upgrade to another house that will become mature later, but it isn't yet.
Mm. And I love that you recognize that you knew that taking this new step, accepting this new season in your life, you knew that you were going to have to let go of some things to make room in your
Yeah.
life.
What did you have to give up becoming a parent?
Oh, whew. Well, being a parent yourself, I'm sure you have a Rolodex that I could choose from. It's funny is I get asked this question a lot, only by other moms, which I find very interesting. So clearly, all moms feel this sense of loss. And it's a complicated feeling because you've gained so much. And I think there's also some guilt behind, longing for what you had to let go of, even though you have this amazing child. And so there's this dichotomy there. But for me, the hardest thing that I had to give up was my freedom. And as my sister, my freedom has always been really important to me. Just the freedom to wake up when I want, go to the gym when I want, hang out with my friends when I want. Even though I've had dogs and I've been married, the level of freedom has exponentially shrunk. And it's weird for me. Like I have to ask to take a shower, especially if the baby's being fussy. I have to tell my husband, hey, I need to shower. Can you please watch him? And of course he's going to say yes. But there is this part of me that's like, I'm an adult. I'm almost 40 years old. I should not have to ask to shower.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge, I mean, everybody has to give up freedom when they have kids, and that's something you just don't realize until you're in it and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is totally different lifestyle. And you get it back. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of it is it's a cycle that kids are only kids for so long. They'll never be kids again. We are adults way longer than we are children.
Mhm.
And so this time is so precious. And so it's a huge sacrifice on your freedom and your time, but only temporarily. Once they move out, you get all the freedom back.
Yeah. And I will say that I've also been surprised by this season. So I do have that grievance of the older version of myself, but I've really embraced motherhood. And I expected it to be challenging, and it is, but I did not expect it to become the best part of my day. I thought I would want to work more than being a mother. And actually, it's kind of flipped. I would much rather play with my kid, feed my kid, nap with my kid, do all the baby and mother things than work. Even though I am working still, I was surprised. Just I've been such a grinder and a hustler and a go-getter that I expected that motherhood would be fun, but not my whole identity. And I've really loved embracing this like nurturing part of myself.
That's awesome. And that's a huge part of our femininity as women, that this is super important. I also don't think, I know this is so biased, but I don't think you really become a full woman until you become a parent as well. Because that is like in our actual nature. To grow a human being inside you is something so special and so sacred that it's just the coolest thing. And I think every woman, if they are able to, I know not everybody can, but if they're able to, I think should, under the right circumstances. But how do you know when it's time to change? Or that, your seasons are shifting? Like, how do you know it's coming?
I think it depends on each season, and it gets easier as you get older and wiser, because sometimes I feel like I have to be in the storm to know that the weather has changed. Like it has to be raining for me to be like, oh, things are different. The sun's not here anymore. When there are often telltale signs, like the clouds are coming in, it gets a little bit colder, right? So I feel like there are signs, but one of the things I notice when I'm in the thick of a change, especially one that was less planned, like having a child and has less like runway, I start to feel an anxiety, an anxious energy. And often I'll feel kind of sad. This like grievance kind of comes up, and I'm like, why am I feeling sad and anxious? And I don't understand why I'm feeling that way. And if I take the time to be self-aware, I can start to notice, okay, what are some of the other signs? Because you can feel sad and anxious and not be in the middle of a changing of a season. But some of the things that you'll start to see is, are you wanting to clean up your house more? Are you trying to get rid of things? Are you naturally and physically trying to make room for what's coming in? Maybe it's not something that you wanted. Maybe you notice that your job is shifting. The culture at your work isn't what it used to be. Maybe the relationship doesn't bring you the same amount of joy as it used to. Basically, you start to notice what used to be the status quo has shifted slightly, and you're having an emotional response that can sometimes also translate into a physical response.
Okay, so your body essentially is reacting, and sometimes you might not know there's a change coming, but if you're having an emotional response, that's like a tall tale sign. I think that like resistance is a good under like energetic emotional response. Like when you're resisting something, it often means change is coming because most people resist change.
Yes. And yeah, resist and resist hard, right? Like we can have a little bit of a resistance, but when you start to like dig in your heels and you're like, no, I am not going to change. This is exactly how I want my life. Nothing should change about it. I want my job. I want my body. I want whatever it is. When you notice you start to get even more stubborn and double down, ooh, honey, it is about to get ripped from you. Let me tell you.
Yeah, so I would love to hear like you and I both love trees.
Mm.
We love, I mean, I already talked about trees, how I'm leaving all my trees behind. But There's such a beautiful analogy with trees, and I love what you have expressed in the past about like the wisdom of trees. Like, can we tell everybody about that?
Yes. Oh, okay. So, yes, trees are such a perfect metaphor for life. So, trees, they don't resist their seasons, they trust their timing. And trees can mirror the cycles in our lives. So, if you look at a tree, even before it's a tree and it's a seed, it's at that new beginning, it's a spark. Maybe this is a baby, right? A new life, or it's a new dream or a new business, and then a bud, potential growth. There's unseen work happening in the dirt, in the darkness. And the darkness is not punishment, which I think is so cool. Often when we feel like we're in the shadows and in the dark, we're being punished, but sometimes we're being protected, right? And then we start to leaf and bloom, and there's visible growth. So there's all this growth happening that we don't see. Like you see a baby before a baby can walk or talk, they're continually growing and learning, but you don't always see that. But it doesn't just stop with the blooming and the leafing, it continues the cycles, the seasons, right? We have spring and summer and fall and winter. And with each season, we can learn. So with fall, this is the release, the letting go, and we allow ourselves to shed. And whatever we let go actually becomes the foundation that can nurture our next season. But before we can blossom, we need to rest. We need to hibernate. We need to allow ourselves to be in a winter. And then we can bloom into spring. And in summer is where we're able to really flourish and shine in all of our work and all of our glory. And then it starts again. And so, just the trees, I think, can teach us so much.
I agree. And it's not just the outward, like what you see on the outside. There's so much change going on underneath too. So if you were able to like dig up a tree, the roots are even like just as wide or just as deep as like the top of the tree or just as prevalent, right? And so there are things that have to be going on both on the outside and the inside in order to be more anchored and prepared for these types of changes too.
Absolutely. And just like you said, you're not going to bloom all year long, but you are still growing. The roots, I think, often are even bigger than the outward leaves. And I think it also teaches us that when we're dormant, when our leaves are gone, when it looks like we're dead, right? In winter, sometimes it just looks dead, that this dormancy, this pause, this winter of our lives is not failure. It is
Hmm.
a necessary season so that we can have a spring. If we did not have a winter, if we went right from autumn into spring, do you know how exhausted we would be? We would not be able to bear the fruit that we do if we did not take that hibernation season.
Hmm. Yeah, I was actually just talking to my friend Kirsten yesterday kind of about this because in the real estate world, we are going into a slower season. It doesn't mean we will have no transactions and make no money, although that does happen for some realtors, but we are going into a slower season, going into the holidays, going into the winter. And she was saying how she's grateful for this season of this winter because now she can just take care of herself, go to the gym more, take care of what she needs to do for her family, enjoy the holidays, and then kind of go into the spring when real estate starts ramping up again, fully prepared and refreshed. Because if you're just going and grinding all year round, you will burn out eventually. Like whether you choose to or it just happens, it will happen. And so it's better to get out in front of it and take the necessary breaks and the rest that you need so that you can show up better when it's time to really put the foot forward and grind.
Absolutely. So it sounds like Kirsten is in a winter season. I would also agree that I am more in a winter season. Now, just because we are in November and we're going to be entering winter doesn't mean you are in a winter season yourself. So, Annika, what season do you think you are in?
I mean, we're going into winter, really, because, the time of recording this, we're going into winter, but I don't know. It's hard because I actually have a really hard time resting. I have a hard time going into winter because if there's downtime, I feel like I need to fill the space and I need to be busy. And it's actually harder for me to go dormant. But I think what I need is a winter because I've been grinding for years. I think that's what I need. I think I think I kind of really roll with the current seasons. I'm a big fan of the four seasons. That's why I live in Idaho because I like the four seasons. I don't think it's natural to be hot all year round, or cold all year round. So it's a good question because there's a lot of new things happening. So new seems like spring, but then there's also all this ramping up and all this change that just happened. So I think we are needing to go into a winter. It's a long answer, but it's hard to answer.
Okay. Well, and then I was going to follow it up with, if you don't know where you are, then back to what we had just talked about is, how do you know that you're in a new season? Where are you resisting, right? So are you resisting the letting go? Are you resisting the stillness and the rest? So if you are, feeling this resistance to rest, maybe you are about to enter your winter season.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to look at it to determine which season you're in. So, just thinking out loud, if I'm resisting of letting go, that's like resisting fall. If I'm resisting rest, it's like resisting winter. If I'm resisting new and change and like growth or like the budding of ideas and ramping up ideas, that's spring. What would be like resisting summer?
I think,
Like full force?
shining in all of your glory, right? Going 100%, a lot of energy, going after, not stopping. I would say if you're resisting that, then you're probably in your summer season.
Okay. So I'd say I'm resisting the stillness because I have so many more ideas and ambitions that I just want to keep starting, but I know that I will burn out. So I think that that's a really good self-reflection question is what season are you resisting? And that's kind of a sign of what season you're going into. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. So how do you how can you learn to trust like this natural rhythm that's going to happen inevitably?
Well, just like you said, you're a big fan of our natural seasons. I think this is why we experience seasons as a collective, as a human race. We all get to experience these physical seasons that we can turn around and see. And I think it will help teach us that we have seasons within ourselves. In the rhythm of the change, it is based on your experience. So you know that winter is coming because we're in fall. And you know that spring is coming. So maybe you're resisting your winter season, but you know that summer is going to be there. So by
Mhm.
trusting in the rhythm, by having experience that you've lived a spring, you've lived a summer, you know they're going to come back around, it will allow you to embrace the rhythm of your current season. And I would even throw it back to music. I love the term rhythm. Like if you're listening to a verse and you listen to the second verse, usually it has a similar rhythm as the first verse. And then the chorus kicks in, and the chorus is probably going to play again. And the hook might actually resemble the first verse. And so you know that there's this rhythm and you know that it's coming, and you just kind of groove and dance through it because you trust that it's going to make sense. You trust that there's a story being told, there's this cycle, and you're going to follow it. So it's the same with the seasons. Trust that your summer is coming. I promise. If you are in the middle of a fall and you are having to let go, which is tough, because whether I think winter is pretty difficult to slow down, I think almost autumn is harder because you have to actually do the letting go before you can enter in your winter season. So if you find that you're resisting some of this, know that your spring and your summer is right around the corner and it'll be here before you know it.
And I think that when you look at trees, like there's not a tree looking at the other tree going like, why are you letting go of all your leaves? Like now you look naked. Like it's not, it's they're like trees don't, they communicate, but they don't talk, right? And so it's important to give ourselves grace and give other people grace when they are going through a change of seasons and they're letting go of things. It might be letting go of relationships. And that might be hard because you might be the person they're letting go of.
Mhm.
And instead of going, why are you letting go of your leaves? It's, good for you. This is a necessary change that you're going through so that you can bloom later on.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this brings me to what I would like to do, now, if you don't mind, is a visualization. And I think it can really help us embrace where we are in the changing of the seasons and using the wisdom of the trees. So, for all our listeners, if you are driving, please do not close your eyes, but you are more than welcome to take a deep breath. I'll often listen to visualizations while I'm driving because it helps me calm my breath. So, let's do a quick visualization wherever you are. If it's safe, close your eyes, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and imagine yourself as a seed, tiny but full of potential, resting in the soil. Feel that darkness as protection and not punishment. You begin to root down, drawing nourishment from all around you, going deeper and deeper. And slowly you start to emerge, reaching up towards the light. You start to leaf and bloom, giving your gifts unto the world, basking in the fullness of who you are, taking up space. Then, as the seasons start to shift, you shed. Leaves start to fall, dreams change, but nothing is wasted. Everything feeds the soil for what is next. Winter arrives. You rest. You gather strength again. Every part of the cycle is sacred, and none is better than the other. Gently open your eyes, and as you come back, realize that you have the wisdom of the trees within you.
I love it. I feel like I visualize like when they put like a camera out and you see like the sun coming and going, like it's like a fast,
A
you know,
time lapse.
a time lapse. Thank you. But of all the seasons, and it just is such a good reminder that it's like what Jim Rohn said, that you can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself,
Mhm.
and you can learn how to adapt with the seasons, and you can remember that it is inevitable. Like, unless you cut down the tree, it will lose its leaves and then it will bloom again over and over and over. And just like us, we have changes that are inevitable. And I think another thing to consider is, are we resisting the internal changes or the external changes? Because some people might be easy to get rid of all of their things in their life. Might be easy to get rid of people, might be easy to change jobs, change location, get rid of all their clothes. Like I love to, get rid of all my clothes and buy new clothes, but I resist internal change because I think I'm great just the way I am and I don't want to change. But
Mhm.
the internal change is just as important as the external change. And if we're only externally changing, then you're missing a huge part of how important the rest of the change is. Just like the roots, like a tree cannot fully bloom, cannot fully thrive if it was not deeply rooted. If it had shallow roots, it would die, it would fall over, it wouldn't withstand the winds of the changing seasons. It has to have those deep roots, and so do we.
Oh, you're absolutely right. So, how can we deepen our roots? How can we better understand where we are in our self-coaching segment? What are some journaling prompts that we could throw out to our listeners?
Well, I think, like you said it before, what am I resisting?
Hmm.
What change am I resisting? What change is necessary that I'm fighting? What
Hmm.
change needs to happen? I mean, these are all questions that revolve around it, because we could stay the same. And when we're 100 years old, we're on our deathbed, and we could say, this is my life story. I woke up every day at this time. I went to work this time. I had dinner at this time. I went to bed, start over, over and over and over and over and over, and nothing changes. that's not much of a story. That's not going to hit the news. It's not something to, pass down. Like, what did Oma Britannia do in her life? Well, she woke up, went to work, went to bed, and that was it. There's no change, there's no growth, there's no improvement. And so you have to decide who is the person you're going to be. Are you going to be the person that embraces change and the adventure? Because things always go wrong in an adventure.
Mhm.
And or are you going to embrace being the same? And there's nothing wrong with being the same, but you can live up to your most potential. You can do more with who you are if you embrace change.
Oh, I love that. And also, like, how can we honor the current season? And we were talking about, like, okay, so you accept it. Fine, I'm in winter. I guess I won't book myself so much. Is that honoring the current season that you're in by just begrudgingly accepting it?
No, I think it's everything's attitude, or
Mhm.
attitude is everything, is that you need to really have like the stillness and presence and allowing what is coming in without resistance. I mean, if you have that attitude of like grudgingly, you're actually resisting it. It's like, fine, I'll do it. That's that's not actually being present with the change. What resists persists. So the more you resist, the more it's going to like nudge you, and the more there's going to be a need for it. But if you just relax into it and let things flow, it'll be a lot easier for you.
Absolutely. So, ask yourself what season you're in. How can you honor this season in your life? And then maybe start some type of ritual. So maybe every month you can check in with yourself because we don't always follow the seasons of that we're outwardly in. So maybe you're in a spring season, though it's November. So maybe journal and check in with yourself. I also encourage a nature walk. We're learning about the wisdom of the trees. And what's a better way to learn from the trees than to be among them? I was actually on a walk yesterday and I was feeling this anxiety of letting go and preparing to step into my winter season. And I just saw this tree that called to me. It asked me to walk up to it and to place my hand on this tree and to not just let go, but to give the tree what I feel burdened with. And I literally felt this tree talk to me and say, I'm here, come to me. And I did. I placed my hand on this beautiful trunk and I gave my anxiety and my stress and what I needed to let go to the tree. And then I thanked the tree because I know the tree, has to absorb that and filter it out and stepped away with a lot more gratitude for the next season of my life.
I think that's beautiful. I have so many people in my life that make fun of me for doing similar things. Like even our brother Ian, we went up a hike in Utah and I was like, hold on, I gotta go up and hug this tree. And he's like, okay. And he like climbed up the rocks and I just said, just come feel this tree. Like it has so much good energy. And not everybody's connected like that, but it's something that you can learn. But here's some perspective that just came across my mind real quick. If we resisted change, if we didn't allow any change, if we didn't embrace it at all, we would still be in like buggy and horses because trains were very different than horses and it was scary and it was weird and fast and dangerous. And then there were cars and there were people who resisted cars. And then I heard recently that people actually embraced cars because there was like horse poop everywhere. And they were like, oh, good. And then we don't have horse crap in the middle of the street. So it just depends on what type of person you are. And then think about this. We used to have VCRs and then DVD players. And now we have streaming services on every device on our fingertips,
Mhm.
and that's not as an important change, but just think about it. If we resisted, we would still be in these like ancient times of no growth. And there wouldn't be as much convenience that we have now. And there's so many modern conveniences and blessings that we have that if society were like, no, 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 don't change. Like cars are scary. That's new. We know nothing about it. They're dangerous. We're going to stick with our horses. Like, where would we be as a society if we didn't embrace change?
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's such a good point. So I'd like to bring it all together and wrap up this episode with reminding you that everything has a season and nothing can bloom all the time. Give yourself grace for exactly where you are. You may be in a different season than you expected, than even your spouse or your friends or your family. Give yourself grace for your season. And just as the trees trust the turning of the seasons, may we learn to trust the timing of our own lives. This has been another episode of the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, subscribe and share the love. And remember the teachings of Lao Tzu. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Until next time, trust yourself, take the wisdom, take the breath, and take the next step.